Welcome to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, and we're picking up the series on the 21st of July 1916. If any of you watched the previous video, you'll be aware that that is nearly a year on from the end of the last video, but I'll explain that in a minute. First, I want to do a historical section of the video, and I'm aware that many people may not want to watch this, so there'll be a timestamp appearing now. This historical overview is going to relate to the whole of 1916 because there's some interesting political developments in Russia that actually happened in the second half of the year, but I want to cover them now because they don't really fit with specific dates. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about the Western Front, because I think that seeing what's happening on the Western Front will put into perspective what's happening on the Eastern Front. Now, the two big battles of 1916 was Verdun, which ran from the 21st of February to the 18th of December 1916, and that was a French offensive against the Germans. And there was also the Battle of the Somme, which runs from the 1st of July to the 18th of November 1916. Now, these were two major battles, and when I say battles, you've got to understand battles in the sense of the First World War. These weren't like the traditional battles of before, when the armies went out, they attacked, they fought up for a day or a couple of days sometimes, and then it was over and they all packed up. This was continuous conflict between the two opposing forces that went on for months, and during that period there was constant shelling, advances, and then of course the advances were driven back, and I think it's quite important to realize that at the end of these battles virtually no progress had been made. In fact, to give an example, at the end of the Battle of the Somme, the British forces were still trying to capture the objective that was meant to be their first day objective at the beginning of the battle in July. So that goes to show that on the Western Front there was this stagnation of conflict with troops literally fighting over hundreds of yards of territory and gaining absolutely nothing. And now to put it into the real darkest side of the concept is these two battles resulted in 1 million men being killed in the course of 1 year. Now, if you think of, I mean, that is a massive amount of men to die to gain virtually nothing. So that shows what is actually happening on the Western Front. Now, before we move to the Eastern Front, I just want to talk about three technologies, because one thing about World War I is that a lot of military technologies we regard as normal were innovated and developed during this time. Now, the first one was aircraft. Now, the French were the first army to actually use aircraft on the front because they'd gained experience in their conquest of Morocco. So they actually started the war with the largest number of aircraft, which I think was just over 100. But compared to the other armies, that was a massive air force. They were also the first country to organise their aircraft into groups of reconnaissance fighters and bombers. I think it's quite important to say that as the war progresses, aircraft take a bigger role in the conflict. Now, the next one is the German use of U-boats, which was a completely new form of warfare, which was seen as dishonourable. And to give you an example of how effective it was, is in early 1916, one German U-boat engaged 3 British cruisers. They torpedoed the first one, and because the captains of the other 2 cruisers didn't know what was going on, they actually stopped to pick up survivors, and then the second cruiser was torpedoed, and then the third captain did exactly the same, and the third cruiser was sunk. So one U-boat was able to sink 3 cruisers. True, they were outdated, but that shows that the surprise of these weapons. And the third technology was the British inventing the depth charge. In their first attack, the British were able to drop depth charges on a U-boat and destroy it, because and the boot was on the other foot then. The U-boat commander didn't know what this new weapon was that the British were deploying against him. That goes to show the impact that the First World War had on military technology and tactics. Now, the Eastern Front now extended from the Baltic to the Black Sea, but unlike the Western Front, it wasn't continuous trench systems. What you had was a series of mobile fronts. Now, in the north, the Russian army was still fighting hard against the Germans, with either side making limited progress. In the Carpathian Mountains, the Austro-Hungarians have been able to slow down the Russian attack due to massive support by Germany. But the most active part of the Eastern Front was actually down in Romania, and the German armies were able to start pushing back the Russian armies in this area. And it's worth noting at this point that there's a kind of myth that the Russian army couldn't fight, it was ill prepared. Despite the horrendous casualties, the Russian army at this point was still a force to be reckoned with, and you've got to remember they were holding back the combined forces of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the German Empire. These countries, although they were pushing the Russians back in places, they didn't have it all their own way. And I think this is something that's important to realise, that what was going on in the Eastern Front, because in the second part of 1916, this is where the political dimension comes in, which would eventually lead to the revolution and also Russia making a separate peace with Germany. And to be honest, this is quite an interesting bit of history. And probably the best way to explain what is going on is if I jump forward slightly to September 1916, with the appointment of Alexander Protopopov to become Minister of the Interior. Now, this character doesn't tend to get much of a mention when you read some histories of the Russian Revolution, but he is actually quite a principal character in that process. And to understand that, I need to explain what he is. Now, he was one of many incompetent ministers who were in charge of the Russian government at the time. And again, there's a popular myth that Russia couldn't supply the cities with food and other resources, which then led to the Russian Revolution. In fact, Russia was producing enough food, but because of the incompetence of the administration, in fact, I think the Prime Minister at the time effectively privatized food distribution to make profit, which actually led to shortages of food in the cities. And again, as a comparison, you have to remember that even in Great Britain, France and Germany, the population were suffering food shortages. But what caused the problems in Russia was this incompetent level of government. Protopopov had actually been appointed to become the interior minister because he was great friends with Rasputin, who have literally dominated the Russian court at this time because he had complete control over the Tsarina, which in turn gave him the Tsar. Protopopov's appointment was more political than his abilities. In fact, on the level of incompetence, this guy was down even lower. He also had mental issues because he suffered from syphilis. So his appointment to the Interior Ministry sets the stage for a series of very bad decisions that would lead to the revolution, because Protopopov actually believed that Russia needed to make a separate peace with the Germans. And to do that, he started undermining the political alliance with the other members of the Allies. But at the same time, he looked back to the 1905 revolution, and he actually came up with this idea that if he could foment revolution in the cities, what that would do is destabilize the Russian government. Bear in mind that this guy is actually meant to be supporting the Tsar, not supporting the revolutionaries. But that would force Russia into a peace with Germany, and then the returning troops would then come back and put down the revolution. That goes to show the thought process that was going on. And it doesn't take, and his death was widely reported in the press as well, and that further fomented revolution. And I think I better stop here. The video is going to go on way too long, and to abdicate. So that is the scenario that's growing in Russia in 1916. And of course, another event happens on the 30th of December 1916, which compounds it even more, and that is the assassination of Rasputin. Now, the assassination of one person may not seem great, but you've got to remember Rasputin had a massive amount of influence in court. And what I'm going to do is just unpause. Now, if any of you see at the top here, the date is actually the 21st of July 1916, or it's just rolled over to the 22nd. Now, we are roughly a year on from the end of the previous video. Now, the reason for that is that I did record a video following on. I'll be completely honest, it was about as interesting as watching paint dry. I mean, I actually nearly fell asleep trying to edit the video. So what I decided to do was play on for a full year. And the reason for that is that if you followed the previous videos, you'll be aware that I had a bit of a disaster and lost the population. And I felt that I needed to build the population back up so that we could actually expand our village over here. What I've done is put quite a lot of work into this village. We've now got an apartment block, the opera house is built, we've got the old school block, We've got the doctor's office being built. I made a mistake here actually, which means I've had to rebuild this because I actually put a smokehouse here instead of a bakehouse. So we've had to rebuild this. I've built this here and put some logs in here. We've got some crops in here as well. So overall this village is coming together, and what I would like to do in this part is actually populate it. Over here I've done quite a lot of work with the distribution offices, so you can see we've kind of got 3 distribution offices and we got another one being built here, because what I've found is that to try and keep control of things and actually expand, these distribution offices are quite important now, and they are growing like mushrooms all across the map. I've also got a bit of a power problem, so I've put in another wind turbine there. And I think before I get any further, I would like to say a big thank you for your comments and feedback. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Radomir Sita, who came up with a very good idea to represent the conscription of the First World War. And what he suggested was building a recruitment camp to move the over 21s over, and also to send supplies which can be stockpiled, and then at regular intervals you would empty the supplies to represent the supplies being sent to the army. Unfortunately, because of the problems with the population, one, I don't have any over 21s, so we can't really send anyone out here. Also, at the moment, the amount of supplies I'm producing really need to be funneled into trying to build this village up. But there is one issue that his comment did trigger, and that is I do need to move even more towards self-sufficiency, because when the revolution starts, I was planning on cutting off imports, but technically I'm not quite ready yet, because we still have to manufacture our own bricks. We're not independent with cement and bitumen. And that actually made me think a little bit of the fact that when I started this series, I actually made a bit of a mistake by starting in 1908. And if I was going to start this again, I'd go right back to 1900 and actually start possibly on a bigger populated map, so that by the time 1914 came, I would have a more bigger economy, is probably the right way to describe it. Now, that has triggered another idea that I would like to explore sometime in the future, because if you're aware of the roadmap, the devs are talking about bringing in scenarios. So sometime in maybe 6-7 months time, I'm really liking the idea of possibly building an early start scenario. So I think that out of the way, we can start getting down to a little bit of detail work. Generally over here, everything is okay. We've got 513 residents. And what I would like to do is just get this doctor's office finished, because we've got 2 tons and possibly the kindergarten. But the problem is we've only got the one house that's going to have 100 residents in it. So one thing I do need to do is just double check these buildings didn't drop down. I think we only need about 5. Go down to 6 workers in there. I think I've already reduced this to 4. Old school block, I think we'll go even lower to 4 teachers. Now, one thing I do want is fire coverage. This is one of the reasons why I want to get the population out here ASAP, because I've got a feeling it's only a matter of time before we have a fire problem here. Also, the other thing I realized is that I missed out sports. So I put an athletics club in here, but of course we need to get this finished as well. And I have been pushing my road crews quite hard. You can see we're actually working on the road out here, and of course we finally finished our mega road here. And during the winter I put quite a lot of effort into trying to infill some of the roads in this area. And what I've also started is to build back this way to the border. I think that would be quite important, because I think that we're getting a few problems with this area. Now, when I did record the video that I didn't actually publish, I did have some fun with the farming up here. And what you can see is what I've done is I've set these up to just bring the crops into here. I've built this distribution office which will send the crops either down to here or over to here. And what I did find with the last harvest was that I ran out of space, because we're not really consuming all the crops. So what I've done is I've built another silo over here, and then this warehouse, what I've done is converted this to store electro components and mechanical components. But at the moment we're still kind of pulling them from here, although we've only got 1.2 tons of mechanical components. I don't think I need any just at the moment, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. And the idea is that what, as you can see here, what I've done is I've reduced all these down to 0 so that we can store more crops in here and a bit more food. I don't think I actually need that amount of food. We can probably drop that down to 42 tons. And of course we've got clothes in here. Overall, the clothes production is going quite well after I fixed the problem I had with the fact that the clothes were being stored up here. And we've got that going. And what I've got here is a distribution office that will export clothes. And if I show the exports, you can see at the moment the exports is food, alcohol and board. So we're kind of making a small profit going forward. I'm starting to wonder whether I can move people over. So we've now completed the doctor's office. I'm just going to reduce that down. He's going to need an ambulance, but we're going to have to make what we got here. Got no workers, but we can cancel. I need an ambulance. Oops, no. Cancel that production. Cancel that production. I think we only need the one, don't we? I'm just going to put some workers back into here. We're going to need to delete some plastics, I think. Actually, no, what am I doing? I'm not deleting it. That's what I need to do. Let's push that up and delete that. Sorry. We'll actually just increase that a little bit as well. And what that will do is start, because we've got so many crops coming in, I need to keep this working. I think we're now at a point where I could possibly move some people down here. Now, I have come up with a strategy, because even though we've got 514 people, it's still going to be a bit tight, because I need about 400 odd people here to drive this economy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, yeah, you don't really have that many people in, but you've got a few. So what I'd like to do is take out a few people from these areas which are full. So we're going to probably take out maybe 20 from there. And then we'll bring out, that's about 50, and then we're going to put another 20 in there. That gives us about 68 workers here. Now what we do need to do is make sure that they get into here. And right, we've got the kindergarten here as well. I need to reduce that down. So the workers are going to be very thin on the ground here. But what I am going to do is compensate for the workers going over there. So we're going to bring in some immigrants, and it's going to cost me money. We'll bring in one there. And what I'm going to do is spread them around the 20. We'll fill up. Maybe we're 40. Yeah, full. Actually, what we could do is send some of you down to here. Maybe send another 20 down to there. And the idea is that by bringing the immigrants into this place, these into the main village, we'll be able to make them a bit happier, and they can settle down. And what we'll send is the happy people down here, or happy-ish people down here. I mean, the main role of the villagers here is to feed themselves, look after themselves, make themselves happy, and also man the fire station. Now I'm aware that because we're going into winter, that we're going to have a bit of heating, so we're probably going to take some losses from here as well. But I'm hoping that I can get the happiness up high enough if we can get this built. So we're going to need to build this, get these guys on it. We're going to need workers, bulk supply, and the road crew, and in fact we probably need everybody on this one. Okay, let me just bring everybody onto it, because that's going to be quite a key building. Now, the other thing I would like to do is we got the heating plant here, and again, I think we'll do it this way, and we're going to assign you there, because what I'm half thinking is if we can get the heating plant built, I could possibly bring in some logs in from up here, from this office, and then what we might get is a bit of an intermittent heating system going. Although I do need to see whether they will walk up to there, but what we do need is get this built. So we're going to go in this kind of quasi precarious state now. Now, the other thing I've also done is started importing some meat into here as well. I'm hoping the combination of the food, clothes, and the meat will push the happiness up and keep everybody happy long enough so this area will grow. Well, that's the theory. But of course, it's going to be a little bit tight. So I've kind of pushed our population up to 1,042 with 575 workers. But I'm half expecting that to go. Whoops, I think I've made a bit of a mistake here, because I was getting power problems in this area, just to show you, because of the instability with this water mill. Yeah, you can see we still got a power overload here. So I actually put in another wind turbine, but it looks like I wasn't paying attention, and I've actually put in the vanilla wind turbine as opposed to these ones. So we got a slightly modern looking wind turbine here, but I think it's okay. I mean, it's going to create 15 megawatts of power, and I suppose probably what I could do is start moving towards those. Now, something else I'm going to need to do is, because we don't have any, got 1.2 mechanical components there, and the heating plant needs mechanical components. How much do I need? 0.37, so we're okay for mechanical components at the moment. We're building this up here. Now, I'm now getting to a point which now is an example of what happened in the previous video, that I'm kind of running out of things to do, but what we can do is got some planning here. Now, what I got here is I need to find the icebox man here. Let me just see. What I would like to do is, where are you? I want to send you there. Because what I would like to do is add you there. You're going to load meat. You're going to unload meat. You're going to unload meat. Set this to 90%. Yeah. What I want to do is stop this guy kind of running around. See, so he's nearly full, and you're nearly full. So rather than having the ice trucks running around, what I would like to do now is just hopefully get, I think this guy's got an ice truck on it as well. There we are. You. Right, you've got a ton of meat on there. What we'll do is we'll just follow him for the moment. Although I've got a feeling he's got a ton of meat on. I don't think. And he's going to New Hope Old Corner Shop. Where's his? Oops, no. He's going here. So he can. So he's not going to drop off all the meat, is he? I think we're just going to send you to there. And what I'm hoping is that will stop the meat imports, and we can run off of this little area here. Although I will continue importing the meat into here just for the moment. How are you doing here? So the happiness is improving at the moment. They've got an issue with sport, but that's understandable because I forgot to build it. Crop wise, so you got harvesting in progress there. You got this one being. I'm a bit worried about why these guys aren't, but we are getting a nice supply of crops into here. Let's just see how we're doing over here, because one thing I have found is that we're actually kind of having a little bit of a problem with storage because in some ways the crops are a bit too efficient. In fact, let's just take a look at this guy. I think what I might do is add you to there, and we're just going to put crops and put you to 90%. In fact, I think what I might do is break crops 90%. What I might do is just push these up a little bit as well, just so that these guys will start moving the crops from these silos out to create more space here. I mean, I've already preloaded this with crops, and we've also got some logs out here as well, in an attempt to try and get this kick-started as quickly as possible. So let's see, are we losing anyone there? No, we're not losing anyone yet, but I think that might happen once we get into winter. Of course, I'm catching up on a year of gameplay. What I've done is I've built a second windmill here, and I've kind of built an array, or laid out an array of windmills here connected to roads. But I was building this, and then I realized that they were spending a lot of time building something I don't need just at the moment. Kind of shut these roads down so that the focus would be very much on here. This is the gravel area that we laid out last time. You can see we've got quite a lot of stuff going on down here. It needs to be picked up and built. Actually, while we're here, I think what we can do is plan our oil industry, because there's two things I want to get from the oil industry is fuel and bitumen. Because if we can get bitumen, that would be one more item I can cross off my self-sufficiency. So let's just pick up the pump jack. I think there's a patch of oil here. I don't 15, 6, I think I saw 16% there. 17, 18. Don't think we're going to get much better than 18%, are we? If I can get 18%, I want the road curving out that way, so we can get a pump jack there. I think we got, I don't think there's much else around here. We got 9% there, we got 10% there. So if I put a, say for argument's sake, we put that in about there, that gives us 2 oil wells here. What I'm thinking is that we can get our oil production going out the back of the village here. I don't know, I mean, we probably need a storage tank as well, but I'm not sure. Storage, we probably would need, now where's my favorite storage tank? I can't see it. Right, here it is, tucked in here. The only trouble is this has only got one input and one output, so we'd have to put a merging pump in alongside it. So the problem is going to be the energy consumption. So what we'll have to do is probably put you in about, possibly about here. I mean, I'd like to get the oil refinery a bit closer, so maybe we can put there. If we put this up, say about here, then what we would need is a merging pump, which would be, I remember now, so we'd need something like that about there. Again, the road is going to be in the wrong direction, so I think we're just put you there. We're not going to get an excavator. We're going to have to find somewhere where it's green. Like that. And let's build. If I build a road in from here, like that, and this road's finished, so we can connect that road up there. We have 2 oil wells, junction there, that pipeline there, and then possibly, again, we're just going to get into here. I don't want a massive oil refinery, I just want a small oil refinery. The problem's going to be finding it. Here's the small refinery. You can see it produces 5 tons of fuel. Even though it says small, it's still fairly large. And what I'd like to do is put it out, say, kind of this far out from the town here. But I think because it's going to possibly produce pollution, we're going to need to put it out, say, about here. If we can get the green. We'll put a pipeline in from here, and of course what means we'll have to put a road out to here. So I'm going to need to gravel this road out here, and then of course what we're going to need to do is put in 2 tanks here, storage, and what we'll have to do is put in an oil tank like that, and another oil tank like that, and then whoops, thank you game. And then I think what we'll do is we'll take the road off here, come out like that, and of course we need to have long run-ins against the thing. So that is the beginning of our oil industry. Of course we need to run a pipeline from here to here. There's hill causing obstruction. Okay, just cancel. Get a bit of height. I think having a bit of height here would be quite advantageous, just in case we got to put too long. Gotta be kidding me. Cancel. Just have to demolish you. We got the pump that there, so what we could do is just bring this back down here. Put you in about here, kind of halfway between. Going to be a little bit exposed. Let's put you there. What we should be able to do now, and then you're going to have to come up over the road like that. Oh, come on game, connect. And what we'll have is the 2 pipelines there, and then run again. I think what we're going to do is we're going to elevate the pipeline here, just in case I want to get underneath this for some reason, and then again we'll do the same here. As far as I know, it doesn't cost anything extra to build high pipelines. Gives us our oil industry into here with the oil refinery, and that's going there. How's the, I mean, overall the population is happy. We're not getting any escapes at the moment. The population is up to 606, but of course the real big factor is going to be low temperature, so that's going to have an effect on the population. Over here things are going pretty well. Looks like we're getting close to the end of the harvest. We've got 91 tons in there, 82 tons in there, and we've got 47 tons in there. So we still need to pick up the crops from here and get them into here, but we're only on the 11th of October. Out here things aren't quite so good, because you can see we're actually filling up these here a lot quicker than these guys can empty it. But what I can do is add the distance to here. The only downside is, let me just, that's nearly full, so what we'd have to do, I mean, it's a long way to come, but what I will do is add these as a kind of long-term backup should I need it. We've got the spare hooks, so you can come there. I'll add you as well. We'll just add you in, unload. You as well, unload. I mean, this is a good example of the fact that I'm not consuming the crops enough at the moment. And how are we doing economically? I think what I'm probably going to need to do is export crops, import. So we've got meat, bitumen, and cement. This guy's nearly finished the road there. And once this is finished, what I'd like to do is build in this section of road here. And that's now finished, so we can kind of And just put in this section now. And we're going to assign you to the... I think they've already just been picked up, haven't they? Yep. Obviously they prefer the... Okay guys, you can just carry along the mud road because the game probably won't let me delete the mud road. I'm just wondering whether that link is there. I'm just going to give it a go. Oh. I can delete that now. And what that would do is push them onto this road here. I think overall here. Now one thing I am considering doing is putting in a government building here, but again we're going to have to go for City Hall. I need a small City Hall. Something that's not going to take too much to build. And we've got a mayor's office here. That's, well, that'd be... I think I'd quite like to put that in. Can we get it in that way round? Because this is the more imposing of the two towns. I think we will put a mayor's office here. Like that. I think we're getting big enough now to be able to represent that. Because at the moment we can't really see the population here. And I'm going to need to do that going forward. So we've got a population of 615 at the moment. I mean, eventually we'll build these two buildings in as well. Let's see what messages, a heating problem. Yep. That's what I thought, because I think the culture place, yeah, they're all kind of showing temperature too low. Also, I've got all about my ambulance. I've probably built about 5 of them now while I was faffing around here. Yeah, we got... okay, we're going to need to cancel current production because we've got more ambulances than I know what to do with. And I'm just going to put you in there. Now I've got my vehicle depot down here. I don't know how much space I've got. I could move these ambulances. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is just leave the ambulances in there. I'm going to need to take out one more. We've got space here. We've got this guy here. How are you actually keeping the meat supply going into here? Actually, are we importing meat? Still importing meat. So where are we? Oh, we're importing meat for up there. I kind of would like to, if we get another ice truck in, I think we're going to build an ice truck. Refrigeration, yeah. Sorry. Apologies for that. Because what I would like to do is, if possible, is stop the meat imports coming in. Let's go back to check the economy. So we are kind of just on the edge. And of course the big one's steel, which we're not going to be able to do much about. But if we can get the bitumen in. The other thing I'm also thinking is that if we build this area up, once this area is built, because once this is built, we'll have the wood cutting post and the carpenter's one there and the logs coming into here. Then I'm thinking possibly out here, if we can get this kind of building up a little bit more better, because this is actually you haven't got a road connection. A fail there. Sorry about that. Gonna have to assign you to put you on Titus groundworks, road crew, and bulk supply. Yeah, what I'm considering is if we can get this wood cutting post really working and we get a surplus here, what I would like to do is possibly get a small brickworks out here based on logs like I built in my 7 Crosses series, because we're going to expand out here to get coal, which would be out around here. In fact, we're pretty close to the coal mine. Let me just like to, again, we can't, it's 0%. There's 27% there. I'm liking it for there. Let me just see. I could get a 25 or Was it? It was. I'm sure it said 27%. We can get a coal mine there, and I'm just gonna put a mud road in so I can find it easier. I think if we can get one coal mine working here, I mean it's not that far away actually. Because we're going to expand the residential out this way, but I'm not sure I can get all this built by 1923, or even, well, no, can't really. It's a bit of a dream, but we can get that built there. So we've got crops in there, we've got logs in here. I would like to get this built, but I don't think you actually need workers here. Try and finish that off. We could get that finished. That means we could somehow get some production of logs, because even if it's not 100%, we can get some effect going here. It'd be brilliant. We just need more population in here. I think if we can get this fixed, I think that's got to be the objective. Over here, everything is really being built. I think all my jobs now are out in Titusville. I don't really feel the need to build anything extra here. Although I could build a brickworks up here, because we've got, let me see, how far would you walk? 186. How far will you walk? So you will actually walk 300. Just suddenly thought brickworks up here, possibly on this side of the border. We could put in a small brickworks with a small cutting post in here. Let me just see this mod factory brickworks. Okay guys, it took me a little while to find it because I was confusing this one with this one. This is the brick firing kiln, which we could possibly slip in, say, about here next to this. It's not that close to the buildings, so if we can get you in here, because this uses logs, so we can get a brick firing kiln there like that. But what we're going to need, because we're going to need a logging cut here, and what we'll probably need is storage again. Let me just get into storage. I just love this. Let me just go to, I'm a bit inclined now to start building these. In fact, if we put it this way, say something like that, put you about there, because it means if we build you there like that, we've got that built there. We can bring the, actually we'll probably leave that just for the moment. We need to gravel out through here. And then what we can do is, I think we're just going to stick with the basic. I think what we're going to do is just stick with the basic wood cutting post again. I'll put you out. I think we'll put him out this way. If I can stretch him out as far as he can go. Apologies if you can hear voices in the background. So that sounds like the postman's just arrived. I'll drop you in there. And then you can come down to here. That. Actually, if I curve this road out and back down a little bit like that. And then I can gravel in that road there. Road there. We're just going to gravel all these roads in first. So that will give us a brick production area, which we can drive from this area here, running up to there. I'm just going to let the game run forward. Apologies, I've just had to pause the video because I've just had to go down and take a delivery. I've also noticed that I'm kind of going over long on this video, so I think we're just going to finish up now with a quick recap of where we are. We're obviously going into winter on the 14th of November. We've got all the harvesting finished here, and we've managed to get a fair amount of crops in here, and we've got back up there. We've got no food problems. Obviously, we still haven't finished here, but part of the problem is the fact that the silos are full up. But I think we've emptied that field. We've got a little bit of crops in that field and crops in that field. Yeah, so I think we're going to have to accept that we are going to take losses in this area until such time as we get a better improvement. I mean, I could put a second farm in here, but that's something for the future, because what I really want to do is concentrate on this area here and building up our new village, because this is going to be our new industrial center. Right, we've now got our second house finished here, which means we can move more people in, and we're doing population wise. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit reluctant to start pumping too many people into this area, simply because I've got a feeling we're going to take losses through the winter. So in some ways, if we got space down here, I'm going to be quite happy just to let these people go through. Let me just take a quick look. Yeah, we've got a little bit of slack here now. In fact, we could probably move a few people over. Maybe we'll take 10 out of there, and we'll take 10 out of here. So we'll just kind of push the population up a little bit. I think at the moment, I think we'll just keep everybody in one building. Because if everyone's in one building, we've only got one pollution source. Although technically, I think, I'm just a bit worried about the fact it flashed up there that there's a power shortage. So let me just take a quick look at that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether the advantage would be is to split the population between the two buildings, but let me just see the health situation. Yeah, I mean, the health situation is a bit dire, but I don't think there's much I can do about this. So we're just going to have to try and ride out the winter with this population. We've got a good supply of food and clothes and meat in here, which should keep them happy. But this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. I think what I will do is play on through the winter, because everything gets very slow. And then what we'll do is pick up in the spring and see if we can carry on building up this village. So until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.